Hey guys, Wages World here. June 10th, going to the 11th, 2020. Okay guys, I'm making that playlist of vocabulary, basic vocabulary, space vocabulary. I would encourage people to go look at that because I'm trying to get my times of my videos down, all right, to like 20 minutes or less. And the way that I'm trying to do that is to quit repeating the same information over and over and over. And why again, those who have been here for a while, they don't want to listen to me repeat myself like that. Now, the newer people, they appreciate that, and I understand it, and that's why I made the playlist, because, I want everybody to understand. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing on that. I've also been asked, why don't you script your videos or have bullet points or whatever? I did that for a while, and it did keep me to a tighter time period. But what it did was it didn't allow me to get the information out the way I wanted to. I wasn't able to connect with people in a way that I felt I was helping them. I felt more like a robot, and that's why I quit doing that. Okay, just so people know. But I also know that, I don't want to sit down and watch a 30, 40-minute video. So why would I expect somebody else to want to do that for one of mine? You know what I mean? So that's why I'm working on that. I have been editing quite a bit of the stuff out that was kind of repetitive stuff that actually didn't need to be there. That's one of the side effects or downfalls of not scripting. Okay, that is. I recognize that. But I still want to get it out the way that I'm putting it out. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to start here on the Schumann. We're also going to talk about the sunspot stuff. There was that eruption that happened yesterday, and if it's going to affect us or not. And some other things that I want to talk about, like magnetosphere stuff that's going on. But I've also been asked, why do you keep showing this stuff right here? Why do you show anything? Well, think of it this way. If you're sick and you don't know what's wrong, you got a certain amount of stress, right? Well, then you decide, I'm going to go to the doctor. So you go to the doctor, you figure out what's wrong, and you're able to start addressing it. But you're no healthier when you walk out that door than when you first walked in. But now your stress level's down. Why is that? Well, because now you have an idea of what's going on. The confusion isn't there, the anxiety isn't there, wondering. So that's why I do what I do here. That's the same thing. That's all I'm trying to do, is to drop that anxiety, because we make better decisions when we're not fearful or anxious. Okay? And so that's why I do anything here, guys, on my channel. That's why I show you any of it. So that's what I would say to that. So we're going to jump into it, and here we go. So we got these spikes, right? This is our new normal, okay? We're not going to have very many times we look at this thing and we don't see a spike. 5 years ago, you couldn't say that. Also, observably, provable fact, I can show you that our frequency has risen. And how did we do that? Well, we got 7.83 that's always there, right? That's the heartbeat of the earth, is what we call it. It's the normal frequency, what we would see. But now we have this other one that's staying there right around 14. And then we're going to have this one and this one. And we're going to continue to see these things come. And once they get there to where they're at now, like this one, how it never goes away now, used to look like this down here. Okay? But now it doesn't. So what that is, that's proving to everybody that our frequency's risen. Now these spikes, this small one and this small one, happened exactly 24 hours apart from each other. And then yesterday I showed you guys this spike, but it was 24 hours prior to that one also. So what do we think about that? Well, my opinion is that's not a coincidence. That is not a natural occurrence. It was done by something intelligent. Whether it was a side effect of something we did here on our planet, or whether we did it on purpose, or whether it's coming from outside. Who knows? All I know is everything's frequency, and it can be manipulated. It can. So it can be used for communication. It can be used for anything, making people feel bad, all that. And I am going to have over on my playlist what the Schumann is and what it can do. So I'm trying to work on that. I got 4 videos over there now. I'm working on this one currently, so just know that that's coming. But guys, listen, our frequency's risen. We're seeing stuff happen exactly the same time, day after day after day. That's not a coincidence, just my opinion. So, we'll move on. Okay, guys, I got you over to SDO. This is that sunspot we've been talking about, right? Now, remember yesterday I showed you an eruption on this thing that we didn't know what exactly it was going to do, okay? Now, I can tell you right now that the majority of it did not leave the sun, okay? Now, we couldn't tell because the background is the sun. It kind of camouflages it. That's why we couldn't really say for certain yet. Now we can because we got some data and stuff in. I'm not going to show you that data, but it's there. You guys can go look at some of the other tools if you want. But we would have seen it on stereo A leaving the sun in a big way, and we didn't. That's basically, in my opinion, that's where I was convinced that the majority of this stayed on the sun. Now, what do I mean by staying on the sun? Well, when these eruptions happen, it's plasma. And sometimes, well, a lot of the time, matter of fact, most of the time, the sun recaptures it, and not all of it gets out. Okay? And that's kind of what we're seeing. So, right here's that spot. That was a third little blip that happened after the fact. But if we go over here and we watch this thing go through one more time, there's the first one. Now watch this second one. This is the eruption we were talking about. Right there. See that? Okay. Now, again, it did not leave the sun. So what do I mean by that? Look over here. Now we got the blackness of space as a background. This is not the same eruption, but this is a good way to show you that the plasma sometimes does not leave the sun. It tries, because watch what this does. That looked really close to leaving the sun, didn't it? But it didn't. The sun grabbed it back, didn't let it go. So that's what I mean when I say that. Now, sometimes those things just pop off and leave, and when they do, those are CMEs, and they become something totally different. Solar flares, all that kind of stuff. And when we're talking about these filaments, again, if that leaves the sun, basically that's a CME. Now, we were talking about scorpion tail, right? You know, we got the sunspot, and then we got this funky looking filament, right? It could be any shape. But once this filament crosses itself, it explodes and tries to leave the sun usually, okay? We see that a lot with the arching connections that we see around the sunspots, right? Well, what we end up seeing, eventually they start looking like this, okay? And then eventually what they do is they do one of these. When they do that and they touch here, boom, same thing happens, okay? Sometimes they leave the sun, sometimes they don't. So there was a little bit of that second eruption that did leave, but it was not coming at us. Okay, here it is again. We're going to zoom in real close this time. Okay, right there. See that? Now, again, like I said, the sun recaptured most of that, but we couldn't tell. And that's why we wait. You know, I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I couldn't tell. I told you in my video I couldn't tell you definitely what was going to happen. And we have to exercise some patience. We do. You know, like the other day when I showed you that halo CME, I showed it to you before we got the data in, and the reason why was because I was making a video and I seen it coming out from behind the occulter. Now I actually said in my video that I made, I couldn't tell you guys if it wasn't going straight off the back or if it was coming at us. It ended up going off the back, which ended up being a great thing. But typically I would wait, and I didn't because I was already there, and I know some precursors now. I see things, but I still wait almost 99% of the time, just so you guys know. And I would encourage anybody that's looking at this stuff to do the same thing. If you're making videos, please have some patience. Please. Because if you start putting breaking news in front of every word in your thumbnails, man, it's so dishonest when there's nothing breaking in there. It's one of my pet peeves. I've actually unsubscribed from channels that I used to watch for years because they started putting that word in there and catastrophic this and catastrophic that and all this and all that. And you click on the video and none of that was in there. It's like, what? So, you know, I really gave all those channels that I was, you know, subscribed to in that end of it, I gave them like a year and a half, and none of it changed. So in my opinion, when you see that, what they're doing is they're trying to get a click or a view. And you guys know that that's not what I'm here for. I want to be right. I want to show you guys what's going on. And I want to give you, you know, sometimes I give you my opinion. But for the most part, I want you guys to see what I'm seeing, just the observation. And you guys make up your own mind. Okay? And I have to say this, I got the best subscribers in the world. In the world, man. I mean, you guys bring me up. I mean, gosh, man. I wouldn't do this if I didn't have that feedback. I promise. That's what's most important to me, that you guys are understanding what I'm saying and I'm getting feedback that way. Now, those of you guys that are new, know that if you ask a comment, if you ask a question in the comment section, my subscribers are awesome enough that 99% of the time, I don't even have to answer it because they do for me. That's just how awesome it is. It's great. It really is. I can't say enough good about it. You guys are awesome. And anybody that's new, stick around. You guys will figure that out, I promise. And again, if you have a question, ask it. If I can't answer it, I guarantee you somebody else in the comment section will, or at least they're going to attempt to. So just know that. So anyway. Okay, guys, I'm going to show you some space geoelectric field model here. What this is this is the effects of solar weather on our electrical grid. Okay. Now what you're seeing there is very, very normal. Okay, this is what we would expect to see pretty much under normal conditions. It might be a slight increase in the solar wind or whatever causing some of this. This is not going to give you the local thunderstorm effect, right? This ain't what this is for. Okay. Again, this is more of a regional, continent size what's going on here, right? So I just wanted to show you guys this because I'm going to start showing it more often. This has only been around for about a year, and this does give us a good idea sometimes, especially when you start seeing stuff in the purples and reds and stuff. I mean, most of the time when we see that, we do start seeing blackouts and stuff. So just so you know, that is what it is. A lot of times we'll see this too, and it'll be wrapped around like a tropical system. Like the one we just had that came up through the Gulf. If you were to go back and look at archive footage of this, which we don't have access to, but I was watching it, and we were actually getting like yellows and light greens down here as that was coming on shore. It's kind of crazy, but that was actually what was happening. So anyway, we'll move on. Okay, guys, this is the Space Weather Prediction Center. Okay. Up here, this is what we would look at for like solar flares. Our base level of this will fluctuate a little bit. You see how it's higher up here and it's kind of titrated down. And the reason why is because we don't have very many sunspots facing Earth. We just basically got the one. Okay, and as that changes, this base will actually raise, and then when we see spikes, that's when the flares will be happening. Okay, just so you know. Now the geomagnetic activity, I've shown you guys this a bunch. This is most certainly what we would see for look at if we were getting hit with a CME and all that kind of thing. That thing would probably go into storm level, which means, depending on how strong it is, a whole lot of different things, up to including blackouts at the very strong ones. Or just increased auroras. Aurora photographers love it when we have a low-level geomagnetic storm because they get more auroras and they creep down a little bit closer to the equator. So that's why. Now, I haven't talked about this for a minute. Okay, guys? You see these? Those are coronal holes. We always keep a southern coronal hole. You can see that. And a northern one. Those are always there, okay? Now these other ones, they come and go, right? Now the Earth's position is just south of the equator of the sun. So anything that's rotating into the Earth strike zone, and that's what they call it when something rotates right in between, right in front of Earth. Okay. So if you look, you see that big, I guess I shouldn't say big because it's not big. Sorry about that part. Right there. Okay. Now what you're seeing is a coronal hole, and it is right in front of us right now. So in about 3 days, we're going to get that solar wind stream. Okay. So basically, those are darker areas on the sun. And what it is the temperature's lower there. That's why they show up that color. Now I've seen coronal holes this big. Okay, you can go back and look at archive data and you'll find it even bigger than that. What that means is that we're going to have an increased time of charged particles, which is solar wind, coming at us. And the way those things travel, this is the sun, this is the Earth. There's a connectivity line called an interplanetary magnetic field line. I know that's word salad for a lot of people, but that's what it's called. It's our connection to the sun. The charged particles travel along that line. So when they're light or low density, is a better way to put it, they look like this as they travel towards us, and then they hit us, right? Or go past us and all that, right? Well, the higher dense ones, what they do is they hang closer to the center. So they do this. So we take a more direct hit and a harder punch when we get high dense charged particles hitting us. So that's the difference, guys. Now, like I said, the coronal holes, these are very, very patchy. That's what they call it. Patchy coronal holes. That's what they look like. You know, it's not like one big one. Okay, it's a bunch of small ones. So each time one of those comes in front of us, it's going to send us charged particles. And, you know, it'll fluctuate. And where you'll see it is down here. Okay, this is what I call popcorn. A data point on this is a dot. Okay, so when these dots are staying real close to each other, this graph ends up looking almost like a straight solid line, moving like that. Okay, but that's not what we're seeing right now. We're seeing what I call popcorn. That means that it's fluctuating from one data point to the other, back and forth, high, low, very quickly. Okay, that's why it looks like that. So we're seeing, you know, fluctuations from 350 or 400 up to like 550. The temperature is in green. It's doing the same thing. The density is in orange. It's doing the same thing. So, you know, usually when we see those kinds of things, it's most likely from a coronal hole. Okay? And also, you can kind of see how the solar wind speed started diving off here and the density started picking up a little bit. That's also indicative of a coronal hole, because the density will do the opposite of what the wind speed's doing, and vice versa, typically with a coronal hole opening. Okay? Now, if it's a CME, they're all going to go up at the same time. Okay, when it hits us. That's just what happens. Okay? But again, here's the Enlil model. They are still predicting that we're going to get a high density impact here in the next couple days. Again, guys, I don't trust it way out here. It's even changed since yesterday. That hump you're seeing there, yesterday it was actually reading right up there about 15. Now it's only registering about 10. So, and that thing will continue to change like our local on the 8s, just so you guys know. Also, they're saying it's coming from a coronal hole because, look, you can see the wind speed going up and the density going down. That's pretty much what is happening there. This is a top-down view, and that is a side view, in case you guys wanted to know. You can push play and look at that, but it's going to give you the same data just in a visual. Okay? So, yeah, that is what that is. Here's the aurora forecast. We're not going to click on that. You guys can if you want. It's just going to show you how far down and what the chances are of seeing northern lights. Okay, that's what that's showing you. You did see a spike here. That could have been from that. It probably was from that second explosion, because that is at that time. So whatever energy it shot It looks like the magnometer picked it up. Okay, magnetometer or whatever, however you want to say that word. Sorry about my mispronunciation there. I'm kind of tired. Anyway, but that's why you've seen that, or it could be an error, but I don't think it is because it did show up on the over on SDO that I showed you guys with that eruption. So, okay, guys, I got you over here at ISWA. All right, and this is our magnetosphere. Okay, and what you're seeing here is basically the impacts of solar weather, or basically any kind of space weather that's hitting us, and how our magnetosphere is reacting. Okay, that's what this tool is trying to show you. Now, I haven't shown you guys this in a while. There's just been so much other stuff going on, I just haven't been able to show you guys this. Now, listen. This thing does not know whether it's coming from the sun or not. All it knows is that it's getting increased either speed or density, temperature, that kind of thing, of the particles that's hitting the detector. Okay, that's what this thing knows. Now, there's a lot of questions on whether how valid this thing is. This is actually an older model. It's actually outlived what they thought it was going to, the satellite and stuff that's out there, right? So why do we use it? Well, because it's still working, number one. Number two, we can kind of verify what it's showing by going and looking at the newer tools. Okay, and it does correspond with one another. There's an Australian model that shows the same thing. There is a new magnetosphere model that's actually positioned the other direction. In other words, the sun's over here on this one, but the other one, the sun would be over here. And I might take you over and show you that one here in a minute. But this is what it looks like when we're having those increased solar winds. So watch this, okay? And again, what we're looking at, this is the Earth, not the black ball, but this right there. That's the surface of the Earth. All right? Also, what you're seeing here, the dotted line is a satellite line. That's where most of our satellites are at. Out here, this is our bow shock. That's our first defense against solar weather. It's always there. Okay? Our magnetosphere in the solar wind, the point at which when they meet each other, it causes that bow shock. Okay? And that's what our first defense is right there. So, obviously, this is a two-dimensional model. It's trying to represent three-dimensional things. So we can't tell if it's going over the top, on the side. If you want to get technical on this, this really looks more like a donut. Okay, say the Earth is here, it would look more like a half of a donut. Okay, kind of like that. Because there's depth there, height. Right? So that's more what it truly looks like. Now, what I'm seeing here, guys, is when we start seeing stuff get inside the satellite line and getting close to us, okay, that means we're having some increased pressure. So what's going on? Well, watch this stuff. Okay, all that is, we get compression and then we rapid expand. You see how we pushed out? That's because we got hit with solar wind or whatever else. Now, something else I've been noticing, you're seeing a lot of crazy stuff going on here. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in the back that it's just kind of nuts. Like, let's get it to right about, I want to stop it in the right position, guys. I'm sorry. Let me, okay, let's back it up to here, I think. Yep, that's it. I'm going to, okay, now looking at this, what I want to say is, you see how we got this bow shock out in front. Well, if you look behind us, what's that look like? Okay, now that could simply be the top too, though, of our magnetosphere as it's going over top of us, like this. Okay. Again, two-dimensional, trying to show a three-dimensional model. But regardless, that's increased pressure behind us. So where's that coming from? There is something called the rebound effect. We get solar wind that comes this way, and it'll go like this. It just happens. I really don't know why, but it does. Okay? That is, I'm not saying that we have some big, huge whatever going on behind us. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that is weather that we're seeing. Our magnetics are being affected on the backside, on the dark side of the earth, away from the sun. So, whatever's going on here, it's probably from that increased solar wind. But we have to keep an eye on this too, okay? Okay, here's that other model I was just telling you about. Okay, the sun's over here on this one. Now what you're seeing on this particular capture here is velocity or speed. It's the charged particles moving at kilometers per second. All right, that is increased. This isn't what we usually see. Usually we see that lighter yellow is pretty much dominating the whole capture there, with some smaller, darker oranges or whatever. But that's most definitely an increase. Okay, and you can kind of see how it's even kind of almost looks tilted. What that is it's just from the direction we're getting hit. Okay, and we kind of adjust that way when we're getting hit because it's trying to, the Earth's magnetosphere is trying to protect us. That's what it's doing. So here's the density. Now you're going to see like little waves come in. And what that waves are is just that increased solar wind, more charged particles coming in. Higher dense levels. When they're light, when they're the light color here, that means that that's a low dense material, right? So if they're the darker blues or the higher dense material particles that are hanging around. And as you can see, we're being protected. Okay, none of this is really, smacking the earth in the face, but it most definitely is an increase in activity. Now they've actually included a pressure model. This is what they're calling pressure. So we can get increased risk for earthquakes as this pressure compresses us, and actually when it lets go, because if it lets go, we're still pushing out. So we'll push out a little further than what we typically do. And in my opinion, sometimes it causes some earthquakes because we're pushing out a little bit. So, but yeah, so that's what's going on with that. So guys, yeah, I'm sorry this video went almost a half hour, but look for my video times to come down. I'm trying to respect your guys' time. And thank you guys for being the subscribers that you are. I mean, you guys make it all worthwhile to me. I am trying to get better at this like I have since the beginning. Please resist the temptation to try to be the first one out there with information, okay? It's not about that. It's not about the clicks or the views. Just be honest with yourself and be honest with your subscribers when you're talking like this, because that's what it is. People aren't, they're not stupid, guys. People that are running channels, just know that your subscribers are not stupid. Because if they see that breaking news on each one of your videos, I guarantee you, if I'm thinking there's something wrong with that, they are too. And some of them won't really say much because they don't want to cause problems. And that's fine. I'm all about that too. You guys know that. I try to keep the drama away. But just respect your subscribers a little bit more, guys. And don't do that to people. That's all I'm asking. Have some patience and do it that way. I promise you, you'll get a better subscriber base, and you'll get better people there that want to be there for the right reasons, and they'll respect you more. Just saying. So, anyway, guys, God bless. Yeshua saves, and you can drink this Kool-Aid.